The Los Angeles Lakers have officially pushed all of their chips, and I do mean all of them, to the center of the table. Per multiple reports, Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office have completed a massive blockbuster sign-in trade to acquire the 24-year-old center Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz. And if you've been on social media these last couple of hours, then your timeline is probably in absolute chaos right now, because people are looking at the staggering amount of draft capital that the Lakers just surrendered to Danny Ainge, paired with a massive 4-year, $130 million contract for a young center who missed pretty much the entire last season. And every single Laker fan is screaming at the top of their lungs that Rob Pelinka has completely lost his mind. And I'm here to tell you that yes, he definitely has. But some of the narrative floating around the league right now completely misses the big picture. This isn't just an isolated trade for a big man. It's the definitive crowning move of a total calculated franchise pivot. The moment that LeBron James announced he was walking out the door for good, the Lakers didn't panic. They just did what they've been secretly wanting to do the last couple of years. And that is ditch the old man and build a younger, more athletic roster explicitly tailored towards maximizing the prime of Luka Doncic. And before we jump into the whiteboard and do all that nerdy stuff to see how this new look front court is going to function on the Lakers, if you like to keep up with all the major storylines in the NBA, I'd appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is a new channel, so it actually really helps, and the 2026 offseason is officially moving at a crazy speed, and I want you guys to be here for every single breakdown. With that being said, let's see how we got here, because to truly comprehend why the Lakers were willing to hand over practically their entire remaining war chest of draft assets for Walker Kessler, you have to really understand the timeline that they are operating on. For the last few seasons, the league wondered if the Lakers could actually build a championship caliber team that would make sense around Luka Doncic. We knew a couple of days ago that the backcourt foundation was pretty much secure after they locked up Austin Reeves to that massive 4-year max extension. But the glaring massive hole in the roster these last couple of years has been at the center position. Last season, the Lakers finished a miserable 19th in opponents' points in the paint. They were getting bullied, routinely giving up second chance opportunities, and lacking any sort of meaningful rim resistance. And Luka Doncic has proven that if there's one thing that he absolutely needs to operate at his peak, it's a highly specific type of big man. He needs an elite lob target who can roll hard to the basket, anchor a defense, and clean up the boards without needing a single post-up play drawn up for him. Very similar to what Jackson Hayes has been doing for the Lakers, but just better. Now, I'm going to give credit where credit is due, because the Lakers did try to make it all work with DeAndre Ayton last year, but then he had that infamous quote where he said that the Lakers were trying to make me Clint Capella, and I ain't no Clint Capella. And then Ayton quickly realized that it would have been much better if he was Clint Capella. However, this offseason, the elite tier of restricted free agent centers was incredibly scarce. I mean, the market was essentially a two-man race between Jalen Duren in Detroit and Walker Kessler in Utah. I feel like Kessler has been at the top of Pelinka's and the Lakers' wish list for a couple of years now. The universal expectation the league had was that Utah would match any standard offer sheet thrown his way. So how do you take away a young, starting 7'2" defensive anchor from the clutches of the one and only Danny Ainge? Well, you don't just send a regular offer. Nah, you walk into the room with your nuts out and every single asset to your name and give him an offer that he literally cannot refuse. Yeah, they were only able to secure Kessler via sign-in trade because the Jazz probably would have just matched any cash offer. The Lakers had to part with 2 completely unprotected first-round picks in 2031 and 2033, alongside highly valuable first-round pick swaps in 2028 and 2030. On top of that, the contract itself is pretty substantial. A 4-year, $130 million deal that pays Walker Kessler an average of $32.5 million per season, and a 4th-year player option. Boy, does Rob Pelinka like his player options. And when you look at what the Lakers even had in the storage, they entered this offseason with 5 viable first-round draft assets, and they just surrendered 4 of them for one single guy. Danny Ainge and Utah's front office put off another fleecing masterclass, in my opinion. And if you don't believe me, just think about this. They traded an unhappy, injury-prone player who played all of 5 games last year for more compensation than what the Celtics just got for Jaylen Brown. But if we're being honest, for LA, the risk isn't really in the draft capital or the money they're paying Kessler. They're in win now mode, so none of that really matters to them. However, the big risk is in the medical history. Kessler is coming off a season-ending surgery to repair a torn labrum in his left shoulder, an injury that limited him to just, once again, 5 games last season. But even before that, in the year prior, he only played 58 games. Now, when he is on the floor, his impact is undeniable. In his last full healthy season, he averaged a solid double-double, 11.1 points, 12.2 rebounds, and a spectacular 2.4 blocks per game. He gives the Lakers what they've sorely needed, an elite rim protector which they haven't had since Anthony Davis, who generates offense purely off screens and perfectly complements Luka's playmaking. But the real question is whether or not he's even going to be available to do any of that. And you can't talk about the Walker Kessler acquisition without mentioning the absolute loss of talent that preceded it. The Lakers have completely transformed their locker room identity by cutting ties with pretty much every single veteran. First and foremost, LeBron freaking James is officially gone. Now, we don't know where he's going yet, but we know that it sure as hell ain't LA. The Lakers also officially moved on from Marcus Smart, who signed with the Rockets for only $6.5 million on a 2-year deal. They let Luke Kennard walk away in free agency to the Suns and watched backup center Jackson Hayes depart to the team they just traded with, the Utah Jazz. And based on the reports I've seen, it's highly likely that they won't be able to retain Rui Hachimura, as there's a whole lot of interest since, you know, he's the greatest playoff shooter of all time. But to get that grade A long-term center that Luka was reportedly looking for, the front office pretty much had no choice, because in order to compete against the absolute elite size of the West, specifically looking at you, Victor Wembanyama, they had to get younger and literally taller. Which leads us to every single move the Lakers have made since then. With all the cap space that they had from everyone just walking away, Pelinka couldn't just get Walker Kessler and call it a day. First, they signed Quentin Grimes to a staggering 4 years, $60 million contract, with, of course, a player option in year 4. Grimes, who was 8th in scoring off the bench last year, will definitely help the Lakers in that regard, since currently they quite literally have no depth. But both his offense and defense especially has been incredibly inconsistent, so I'm sure he'll have moments where he looks absolutely amazing, and also moments where Lakers fans can't wait to get rid of him. But at the very least, he does seem like he's JJ's guy. Second, they added Sandro Mamu for 4 years and $52 million, and of course, that comes with a player option. Originally, it was reported that this signing was seen by the Lakers as pretty much a replacement for Rui Hachimura, which after looking into the numbers a bit, I can kind of see that. Rui is no doubt better than Manu when it comes down to getting buckets, especially when it comes down to shooting. But I do think offensively, Mamu is capable of providing better ball movement and connected plays, so he probably fits into JJ's system a little bit better. And he rebounds at a pretty good level. However, on defense, it's pretty much a wash because they both leave a lot to be desired. Finally, they signed Colin Sexton to 2 years, $19 million player option. Another undersized guard who can't really play defense even if he tries. Man, Rob Pelinka sure does have a type. Now, at least he seems to be very good at getting his own bucket, but pretty much nothing else, which you don't want to see in a small guard. But there really wasn't much of a choice since they can't have AR and Luka playing 48 minutes, unless they want injuries or Bronny as the backup. But if we're being honest, he's probably not good enough to get real rotation minutes just quite yet. But yeah, this is officially it for the Lakers. It's very clear that the organization and Rob Pelinka have completely moved on from the older, more veteran LeBron era, now having officially locked in their big three of Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves, and Walker Kessler for the foreseeable future. And with that, they virtually have no draft capital left to trade at all. Meaning that this roster that you see right here and now is pretty much ride or die. And as a Lakers fan, I kind of want to die. In my honest opinion, it's a very, very risky gamble, but unfortunately, it's a necessary one that you have to take when you have a generational talent like Luka Doncic in his prime. They did get younger, more athletic, and address their most problematic position in just a single afternoon. But they're still missing a starting level 3, their defense is still terrible, and every single one of the contracts that they signed this offseason, and I mean every single one, I feel like is a complete overpay. And you can't really win in today's league if you don't have any bargain contracts. I honestly think that Luka is in real danger of being the first superstar to not win a ring with the Lakers. And I promise you, if that happens, you can look back to this offseason as the one that started the downfall. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Did the Lakers give up far too many future first picks to secure Walker Kessler, or was there no choice? And do you think that surrounding Luka with Walker Kessler, Quentin Grimes, Sandro Mamu, and Colin Sexton will truly make them a legitimate threat in the West? Yeah, clearly, as you can tell, I don't. But make sure you let me know in the comments down below. Aside from that, the Lakers aren't the only ones experiencing absolute mayhem. Eastern Conference landscape is shifting by the hour with Kawhi running back to Canada. And as of writing this, Jaylen Brown has been officially traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for Paul George. Yeah, I don't know what Boston was thinking, but I gotta make a video on that. Oh, and did I forget to mention that LeBron James, yeah, that's right, the GOAT, is gonna have to choose somewhere to go, and apparently this time, he doesn't even care how much he gets paid. So yeah, it's ring chasing season, boys.